Well, to find out more, I'm joined by John Feal. He's a former demolition supervisor who lost half a foot in an accident at Ground Zero, and is also the founder and president of the Feel Good Foundation, which advocates on behalf of emergency personnel. John, good to have you on the program. For many, 9/11 is more than just a memory. It left them sick, it left them hurt. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience and the impact 9/11 has had on you.
Well, one, thank you for having me today. And my story, while gruesome and horrific, pales in comparison to the tens of thousands that are sick and dying or who have passed away from a 9/11 related illness. I was there for 5.5 days. Roughly 8,000 pounds of steel crushed my left foot. I spent 11 weeks in the hospital, and I wound up getting gangrene, and I had half of my foot amputated, and I've had about 30 surgeries since then. But I'm lucky, I'm blessed. I didn't have the Feel Good Foundation to advocate for me when I got hurt. I had to do it all on my own, and I had to learn the hard way so I can teach others and help others. But since then, I've helped pass 9 pieces of legislation, donated over $5 million in a kidney. So at the time, it was the worst day of my life. Still not going to say it's the best day of my life, but it showed our country who I am and what I'm made out of. And, we talk about 9/11. You can't remember something that hasn't ended yet. This is a continuum. We're continuing 9/11. Sadly, those who lost their lives that day to senseless violence, but so many have died since. That day's not over. It's a day that keeps taken from us. It's that beautiful Tuesday morning that keeps taking 17 years later. And this is not a remembrance for us in the 9/11 community. It's a continuum.
Why do you think the Feel Good Foundation is necessary? Why aren't the existing authorities and structures enough for people who are victims of the attacks?
Well, listen, the Feel Good Foundation was just created as a reaction to the lack of action by our state, local, and federal governments. We exist now so we can work with them. We force them to do the right thing. We're making sure that they continue the right thing. And we continue to advocate so that as the 9/11 community evolves for the worse, that these programs that we helped create evolves with them. So, I never wanted to do this. This wasn't my life goal. It happened. And, after every disaster, there's usually some sort of advocacy and grassroots activism that takes place. And it just happened to be the Feel Good Foundation. I'm never the smartest man in the room. And trust me, I'm not the smartest man on this interview right now. But I have the ability not to accept no when human life is at stake. I don't label anybody. I don't label religion. I don't label skin color. I don't label political affiliation. But if you're in the power to help, you have the position to help, and you have an elected role where you're supposed to help and you don't help, then I'm going to be your worst nightmare.
Yeah, well, you might be the smartest person in this interview. That's up for debate. Let's let the viewers decide. Now, looking back and looking at the timeline now, 17 years on, and all the people that have suffered, especially, we look at cancer, we look at those who have suffered physical injuries. Did the first responders get it the worst?
Yeah, those who were on the pile, who were directly impacted. Listen, I was on the pile. I have breathing issues, scarring of the lungs, but I'm not sick like everybody else. I stay in shape, I exercise, I eat right, and a lot of these stuffs, some of them can be healed. But those who work directly on the pile are more at risk than those who were blocks away in the geographic map south of Houston Street. The absorption through the nose, mouth, and skin made us sick. We ate there, we slept there, we worked there, we cried there, we went to the bathroom there. If you took every toxin and put them in a bottle, you'd have a skull with crossbones saying harmful if swallowed. Now you had thousands of toxins that no scientist or no doctor ever saw before. And we were working in an environment that just was basically a toxic soup, a stew of deadly toxins that invaded our bodies.
And within that 9/11 community that you talk of, people who have been affected and are still feeling those effects. What do they want from authorities? Do they want compensation? Do they want their medical bills paid? Do they merely want more recognition? In a nutshell, what do they want?
I think depends who you ask. It would be all three. I just want to see justice. Nobody ever apologized for their lies and for causing this. For me, it's always been about the healthcare. Take 9/11 out of the equation, 90% of Americans go bankrupt because of healthcare. You can't spend money if you're not healthy and if you're dead, right? So I don't need the recognition. I know what I did there. But, 17 years later, we got a bill passed in 2015, the James Zadroga Health and Compensation Act. We got 75 years of free healthcare. That means we're monitored, we're treated, our prescriptions and our surgeries are paid for. But the compensation part runs out in 2020, but they're going to run out of money before that. Congress always puts these deadlines and dates on all of these pieces of legislation, but cancer doesn't have a deadline. And we still haven't even seen the asbestos cancers come out that have a 20-year manifest, 20 years to manifest. So I've always been about the healthcare. The compensation's great, but for me, again, as long as I have a roof over my head, I just need to be able to advocate and help people that are sick and dying because they were heroes 17 years ago.
And how important is it to you that there are some specific programs, such as the cancer-specific program at Mount Sinai Hospital right now, where they focus on those that have particularly suffered from 9/11? Is that, I guess, the fruits of all your advocacy over the years?
Yeah, sure. So I work closely with Mount Sinai, and Mount Sinai is the center of excellence, and it's the leading one because they were there from the beginning. But now there's centers of excellence all over the New York tri-state area. And now there's a national 9/11 program for the whole country. 433 out of 435 congressional districts were represented at Ground Zero during the 10-month cleanup. Somebody from every state went to New York. Many of them went home and got sick. Now they don't have to travel to New York like Mount Sinai or Stony Brook or Robert Wood Johnson in New Jersey. They can be treated in their home state and do a satellite hookup with Mount Sinai. So these are the things that we implemented when we got the bill passed the first time in 2010, then renewed in 2015 to ensure that these programs are now being streamlined so those who are waiting do not have to wait much longer than what they've already been waiting for.
Okay. John, good to talk to you on the Newsmakers. John Feal, thank you very much for joining us.